I gave them food and shelter when they didn't have it. Not saying they couldn't get it, but they know the situations that they were in. You know what I mean? As school kids. And
so they were in school. They got kicked out, you said?
Both of them got kicked out.
Both of them got kicked out, and you gave them food and shelter. How did you have money for food and shelter?
I learned how to do it.
What the f you talking about, man?
They came live with me in the projects in my grandmother's house.
In your grandmother's house? Oh, but she was gone.
Passed away.
So you got the apartment to yourself. They come, but you still got to pay the rent.
Yeah, I paid the rent. I paid for the love rent. That was Mase manager. I was a hustler. I always been a hustler.
You were in the streets.
I know.
How much do you credit you being successful to Cam?
I credit a lot to Cam, but I also credit a lot to us because behind closed doors, it was us that put him in that position.
You was a fan. You begged us. You are a fan, nigga. A fan.
I mean, he was doing music a long time and things like that, but it was a pivotal moment where before he got signed, them 2 years was very crucial to everything that we did together in his journey of becoming who Cam is.
What if everything you thought you knew about Jim Jones was smoke and mirrors? What if the man who's been running around claiming he built Mase and Cam'ron's legacies was never the mastermind at all, but just a tag-along fan who begged his way into the circle? What if the truth Jim's been ducking for years is that he owes his whole career to the very men he tries to overshadow? Back when Dipset had the culture in a chokehold and diplomatic immunity made the streets feel untouchable, everyone thought the empire was unshakable. But what if I told you that same empire was built on shaky lies, and the man parading around like a boss was really just a groupie with perfect timing? Now the mask is slipping and Jim's scrambling to hold on as the receipts surface. In hip-hop, there's one law carved in stone. Respect isn't handed out, it's earned. You can't just claim blocks you never bled for. You can't remix your backstory when it fits the moment. And you damn sure can't steal credit from the architects who laid the blueprint. The streets are watching closely now, and one of rap's most protected myths is on the edge of collapse. Jim Jones been breaking every street code in the book for 2 decades, and now the very architects who gave him shine are ready to bulldoze the fake empire he's been fronting. Just peep the audacity. Jim Jones out here boldly claiming he was the CEO of Dipset, like he was the one holding down Mase and Cam'ron. That ain't just revisionist history. That's identity theft on Harlem soil, and everybody knows that kind of territorial disrespect can get ugly fast. Lying about your position is one thing, but rewriting the foundation of the crew that puts you on, that's a whole different level of betrayal. And the way Jim delivers these fairy tales, so calm, so confident, you think he really believes his own mythology now. But that's the curse of living off borrowed credibility. The real owners always circle back to collect. Then came the ice-cold checkmate. Cam'ron didn't just clap back, he dismantled Jim's entire fantasy with 4 words that echoed through Harlem like a gunshot. You were our fan. Just like that, 20 years of carefully built lies went up in flames. And this ain't about egos or pride anymore. It's about survival of reputation.
We're gonna start with Jomo. We'll start with Jomo. And you are a guardian angel and designer, nigga. What the fuck is you talking about, man, nigga? You are from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you, my nigga. I did not grow up with you. Contrary to what you believe, I did not grow up with you. You are from the Bronx. Did your grandmother live? Did your grandmother live in Harlem? Yes. Did you come see her? Yes. Did I see you time to time? Yes. I did not grow up with you.
This ain't just rap beef. This is the raw difference between the builders and the leeches. The architects who created an empire from scratch versus the opportunists who latch on to somebody else's glow. And Cam'ron just reminded the world exactly which lane Jim Jones belongs in. And spoiler alert, it's not the one he's been screaming about for years. Here's where Cam really twisted the knife. He exposed the psychology behind Jim's desperate act. See, people who never built nothing of their own get addicted to validation. They don't stick close to successful men out of loyalty. They do it out of fear. Fear of being seen as hollow, fear of being exposed as somebody with no real foundation. And Jim's whole image, the persona he's been selling for decades, was never built on his own stripes. It was borrowed credibility, a costume he hoped nobody would snatch off. But when that foundation starts cracking, there's only one move left. Double down on the lies and pray the streets don't call your bluff. Well, guess what? The bill just came due. Cam dropped the dagger with one cold fact. He taught you how to rap. That's the moment everything collapsed.
And we was like, yo, Jomo's a nice guy. Mase like, yo, I think I'll teach him how to rap. Mase actually taught you how to rap. Literally. He taught you how to rap. You'll say it. Matter of fact, bring up the clip.
Mase helped me learn how to rap. Mase taught me how to rap. Mase actually showed me, he was the first person to show me how to rap. Mase actually sat me down and showed me the magic to rap.
We taught you how to rap, nigga. How you ran the whole organization. How you made Diplomat. Nigga, you ain't make none of this stuff. You was a fan. I put you down because you had a free crib and you was a nice guy. That's how you got down originally. Period.
The truth, Jim didn't co-found Dipset, he didn't discover Cam or Mai, and he damn sure didn't build the empire. What he did was hear their mixtapes heating up the city and begged his way into the circle. Straight up groupie behavior with lucky timing. That single revelation flips his whole career upside down. Every song, every collab, every chart moment now looks like the desperate hustle of a fan who tricked his way into relevance. And in the streets where begging is seen as the ultimate violation of masculine code, that stain never washes off. Real players don't beg, they build. Real bosses don't cling, they create. And Jim Jones just got exposed as being neither. The question ain't whether he deserves Dipset credit anymore. The real question is, how long can you squat on another man's foundation before the original architects decide to bulldoze your fake empire into rubble? In the streets, respect is the only currency, and Jim just went broke in broad daylight. When the very men who made you decide it's time to unmake you, there's no recovery. That's character assassination with no appeal. But what makes this takedown even nastier is that Jim's been running his mouth so long, we've got his own words contradicting himself. The receipts are sitting in plain sight. See, that's the difference between the real legends and the fakes. Consistency. If you lived it, your story never changes. But when you fabricate your stripes, you gotta remix your narrative every few years, depending on who's listening, and eventually, those contradictions catch up and expose you as a fraud. Jim's been editing his origin story for 20 years straight, but the internet don't forget. And when your past interviews start bodying your current lies, that's not just embarrassing. That's career elimination, period. Now listen to Cam'ron setting up the illest kill shot. He ain't just throwing accusations, he's bringing evidence to the table. And when somebody in Harlem says, "I got receipts," you better believe the streets are about to see proof. Cam's about to pull paperwork that'll erase every shred of credibility Jim thought he had left. Notice how calm and confident Cam'ron sounds. That's the voice of a man who knows he's holding the trump card. When you got somebody's own confession on tape, there's no need to argue, no need to shout. All you gotta do is press play and let the streets hear the truth for themselves. Now let this sink in. The same man who's been running around claiming he was the CEO, the muscle, the backbone of Dipset, got caught on camera admitting the unthinkable. Mate was the one who taught him how to rap, not the other way around. That flips the whole story upside down. Jim didn't make Mate, Mate made Jim. This isn't just a slip-up. This is a full-blown confession. Jim's own mouth just validated every word Cam and Mase have been saying for years. And when your enemy doesn't even need to destroy you because you hand them the ammo yourself, that's the purest form of street justice. But the lies don't stop there. Jim's been twisting up even the basics of their friendship. He's out here claiming Cam stayed at his spot like some broke artist scraping by, when the truth was the exact opposite. That's what happens with pathological liars once they get a little shine. They start rewriting history, painting themselves as the hero, the provider, the one in control. The problem, when you're surrounded by the very people who live those moments with you, your fake stories turn into boomerangs. And now those lies are coming back as weapons to cut him down. The wildest part of this whole expose, Jim can't even defend himself. How do you clap back when the evidence is your own mouth? How do you keep screaming that you built somebody when you already admitted on tape they're the one who taught you everything you know? There's no spin cycle strong enough to wash that off, but here's where it gets even heavier. While Jim's busy tripping over his own contradictions, the people who were actually in the room for Dipset's come up have been quietly watching the circus unfold. And now, they're ready to drop details that flip the entire story about who really held the power behind the scenes. Because when the smoke clears and the lies stop landing, The truth always comes from the ones who lived it. Enter Santana, listen to his tone. When he says things were cool between everybody, that's not exaggeration, that's the baseline. That's how it really was before the cracks started showing. Notice how measured, how steady his words are. That's the mark of somebody who doesn't need to embellish, because the facts are already heavy enough. Real players don't need tall tales. They just drop the truth and let the streets connect the dots. Now here's where the plot gets sticky. No joke. Choke just confirmed something that scrambles the whole story. Turns out people did work under Jim, and he did have real authority inside the Dipset structure. So this ain't a straight-up fake boss situation. It's about a man who had some power but couldn't handle the limits of that power without exaggerating it. Jim wasn't a total outsider, but he also wasn't the CEO he's been parading as for years. He was middle management trying to remix himself into a founder. That's a dangerous rewrite because it blurs the line between fact and fantasy. And here comes the statement that's about to split comment sections in half. Choke No Joke just said there was no Dipset without Jim, that he was the muscle holding everything down. Now, before Jim's supporters pop champagne, understand the fine print. Being the muscle doesn't make you the brain. Being crucial to operations ain't the same as being the creator. Jim played an essential role, but that role was protection and enforcement, not artistic vision, not leadership, not blueprint making. There's a massive difference between being indispensable and being in charge, and that's what's on display right now. What you're watching is two camps forming in real time. On one side, Santana and Choke acknowledging Jim's real contributions. On the other, Cam and Machi downplaying them to drive home the point about his inflated claims. But here's the real psychological warfare. Both sides are telling partial truths. Each one's controlling the narrative to make their version stick. And the streets are left trying to piece together what really happened. Jim's supporters are working overtime to highlight his real value, trying to push back against the just a fan label. And the truth, like always, it sits somewhere in the messy middle. But here's the catch. In street politics, perception is everything. And right now, Jim is getting smoked in the perception war. That's the dangerous part of power dynamics in the hood. When everybody's grinding together, loyalty feels unshakable. But the moment one person shines brighter than the rest, jealousy creeps in and the masks fall off. And what's about to surface will expose exactly who the real jealous one in this whole saga might be. Enter Choke No Joke, flipping the whole script by claiming Cam'ron was the one who couldn't handle Jim's success. But before anybody treats that like gospel, let's look at the receipts. Choke got his own long-standing beef with Cam. That grudge goes way back. This is the same man who nearly threw hands with Cam just for praising Jim's mixtape. If you're that pressed over somebody showing love to your ex-partner, it tells you everything about where your objectivity really sits. So when Choke jumps out defending Jim, it ain't just loyalty talking. It's spite. He's spinning the story to jab at Cam while boosting Jim's narrative. And peep how he paints Jim as the protector, the muscle, the man who kept Cam safe in the streets. Sounds heroic, but timing is everything. Jim just dropped his album At the Church Steps in February 2025, and suddenly all this old Dipset drama is back in the headlines. Coincidence? Or a marketing strategy dressed up as street history? When careers need juice, nothing works better than stirring old beef. And with Choke having his own axe to grind with Cam, he's the perfect partner in crime for Jim to try rewriting the past. Santana lays out the whole 50 Cent situation, and here's where it gets real ugly. Jim was so desperate for his own shine that he broke the most sacred street code, loyalty during wartime. When your crew is knee-deep in beef and you step on stage with the enemy, that's not strategy. That's betrayal fueled by jealousy and hunger for attention. Jim couldn't stomach living in Cam's shadow any longer, so he made the move that cracked their brotherhood forever. That ain't the behavior of a man secure in his role. That's the play of somebody eaten alive by envy. Jim wasn't the loyal soldier who got crossed. He was the hype man who couldn't accept his lane and torched the whole foundation just to feel like the star. And 2 decades later, he's still pressed enough to go digging up old grudges, recruiting anybody with an axe to grind to help him rewrite his history. Even Freaky Zeke, who's been trying to keep things diplomatic, admitted the beef wasn't even that deep at first. But once outside agitators started pouring gas on the fire, the whole thing spiraled out of control. And ask yourself this: who really benefits from keeping those scars wide open? The one whose career depends on recycling Dipset drama to stay in headlines. That's the move of somebody who's been exposed as a fraud and has no real defense left. When the truth corners you, the last tools you reach for are the dirtiest ones. Threats, intimidation, and petty personal attacks become your only weapons. And now Jim Jones is about to show the world just how low a desperate man will sink once the lies stop landing. Listen to Cam'ron dismantle him piece by piece. This isn't even about personal beef anymore. This is about exposing a pattern. According to Cam, Jim's got no code, no standards, no self-respect, and zero loyalty to anybody but his own ego. That's the kind of revelation that rips straight through the muscle man image Jim's been hiding behind for years. All that tough talk, all those enforcer claims, all that supposed street credibility he built his persona on, gone in one story. And Cam didn't just say it, he swore he's got witnesses lined up to back it. That's a lethal combo. Receipts plus witnesses. No amount of spin survives that. And here's what makes it even colder. Cam isn't angry anymore. He's not fighting. He's not pressed. He's bored. And in the streets, that's the ultimate insult. When a man stops seeing you as a threat and starts treating you like background noise, that's worse than beef. That's erasure. Cam's basically saying Jim ain't worth his time because he's moved on to bigger money and bigger moves. And so how does Jim respond to being stripped bare in front of the culture? With threats. That's the only card left when the ammo's gone. He's out here hinting at exposing Cam and Mase's secrets, but notice the silence on what really matters. He's not denying a single accusation, not one. And when even threats fall flat, he dives into the pettiest bag possible. Body shaming. Jim really told Mase he needs to go on a diet, like a grown man fighting for credibility thinks middle school insults will save him. That's not gangster. That's not street politics. That's playground desperation from somebody who knows he's lost the war. The irony is choking the room. Jim swears he doesn't take Cam'ron's shots seriously, saying they're just trying to go viral. Yet look at who's making the rounds. XXL, Cam Capone, every podcast and platform that'll hand him a mic. It's Jim Jones. The man accusing others of chasing clout is literally on a press tour, trying to claw his way back into relevance. And then came the moment that exposed everything. When an interviewer actually tried to go deeper into the beef with Mase and Cam'ron, Jim clammed up instantly. The same man who'd been talking tough, making threats, and firing off accusations suddenly had nothing to say when pressed for details. That's what happens when an entire narrative is built on smoke. Ask one real question and the whole thing collapses in your lap. Jim can make bold claims and empty threats as long as he controls the mic. But the second somebody else starts steering the conversation, the tough guy routine evaporates. The mask slips, and what's about to unfold is brutal. The complete psychological meltdown of someone who's been living a lie so long that reality itself has turned into his enemy. The cameras are still rolling. The questions keep coming, and Jim's silence is louder than all the noise he's been making. Now listen to Cam'ron drop the final verdict, and this one cuts deeper than any diss track. At this point, it's not even about personal beef anymore. It's about exposing Jim's entire pattern of dragging down everyone who gets too close to him. According to Cam, artists who tie themselves to Jim don't get uplifted. They end up in worse positions than when they started. That ain't leadership. That's straight parasitic behavior. And here comes the real dagger. Cam reveals Jim's been running this negative smear campaign against him and Mase for over a decade. This ain't new beef. This is obsession. The type of obsession only a man has when the past is the last time he ever felt relevant. The irony couldn't be louder. Jim claims he doesn't care about rumors, says he's focused on investing time and making money. But what's he really doing? Sitting with XXL, Cam Capone, and any platform that'll give him a chair? Basically, a non-stop press run built entirely on reheating old Dipset drama. The man who says he's chasing money is chasing microphones instead. And this is where the saga flips from entertainment to lesson. This isn't just three Harlem legends arguing over glory days. This is about the soul of hip-hop, about authenticity, about the line between builders and leeches, creators and opportunists, legends and imposters. Respect in this culture ain't stolen, it's earned. Jim Jones' story is the cautionary tale. What happens when you build your entire identity on borrowed credibility? Mase and Cam didn't just win the beef, they executed a public demolition. Using Jim's own words, his own contradictions, his own taped confessions, they stripped every layer of the myth until nothing was left. 2 decades of lies gone in minutes, and the fraud was finally exposed in broad daylight. And there it is, the mask ripped clean off. For 20 years, Jim Jones built a career on smoke, mirrors, and borrowed credibility. And in one brutal saga, Cam'ron and Mase stripped it all away. The so-called CEO turned out to be a fan, the muscle exposed as desperate, the tough guy reduced to threats, playground insults, and silence when real questions came his way. What started as a Harlem brotherhood ended as a cautionary tale, proof that in hip-hop, you can fake a lot of things, but you can't fake legacy. Respect is earned, not stolen. The architects always outlast the opportunists, and when the truth comes out, the streets never forget. Cam and Mase didn't just clown Jim, they redefined the whole power dynamic, turning his own words into the evidence that buried him. Now Jim ain't battling rivals, he's battling his own reflection. That's not beef, that's humiliation written in stone. This is bigger than Dipset drama. It's hip-hop history unfolding in real time, and the culture is watching every second like a live courtroom. Stay locked with BarzBuzz, because when the streets start talking, we bring you the raw truth they don't want you to hear.